Have you ever wondered how you could unlock the potential of acrylic papers by avoiding warping or buckling? Using the method that I'm going to show you today, you will not only be able to work with regular abstracts but also be able to work with heavy textures and even pouring techniques without ruining the paper. Let us first look at the materials that we are going to need for the preparation. The most obvious one, we shouldn't even be talking about this, but well, let's start with acrylic papers. I use the Brustro acrylic paper from Creative Hands. These are my absolute favorite and I totally love working with them. Next on the list is Artist Gesso. I use the Brustro Artist Studio Gesso. You will need some tapes. I use the Scotch tape from 3M. However, you can use a regular painter's tape or a frog tape or even fancy washi tapes like I used in my last video. Now it's time to get your cheap brushes. Get a throwaway one. Don't use any expensive or any of your favorite brushes. Just ensure that those brushes don't shed any hair. Let's also get a palette and a pipette that will help me dilute my gesso. You will also need chalk paints. This is completely an optional step, but I generally incorporate this in my prep routine. I have linked most of these in the description below for your reference, just in case you need it. And though it might look like a lot, but trust me, it's worth every minute of your effort. Let me put all of this on the side now and let's dive deep in the first step. Grab your paper and tapes and tape all the four corners of your paper. I am generally lazy around cutting the tapes in the right sizes, but you need not be. Now gently rub your tapes around the edges of the paper to make sure that they are finely adhered. I generally use a tissue paper because I have paint covered hands. If you are the one with clean hands always, you can do this with your fingers. Do not press your tapes down if you're using anything apart from the 3M Scotch tape. You are likely to be tearing off your paper while peeling them off. Moving on, let's get our gesso. I want you to pull out a little bit of gesso in your palette, not too much, just a little bit. Grab a couple of drops of water and add it to your gesso. I have put 3 drops of water in that little amount and I'm mixing it thoroughly now. Once your gesso is mixed thoroughly, start by applying a super thin layer of gesso on your paper. Make sure that the layer is very thin, and if your gesso is becoming a little patchy, add a couple of drops of water. Make sure you're covering all the corners and dips of the paper and you don't have any spot that is not covered with gesso. Once this layer of gesso has dried, which will be in about 15 to 20 minutes, we will go over with an additional layer of gesso. Though all acrylic papers are pre-prepped, this additional step will create a greater barrier between the paper and paints, thereby diminishing any chances of warps. Once the second layer of gesso has dried, we are now ready to move on to the next step. Go ahead, clean your palette and brushes and grab your chalk paints, pull out some in a palette, mix a couple of drops of water and follow the same steps that we did with the gesso. This step will give you the liberty to have negative spaces in your artwork like this without worrying to have bare spots in your paper directly exposing the gesso. Chalk paints probably contain less moisture compared to regular acrylics and hence I guess they have worked beautifully for me so far. So yep, that was it. Let your paper dry at least for an hour before you start working on it. Look at this little baby on a prepped acrylic paper. Zero warping and it looks so crisp even after I held a huge puddle of the paints. I hope you learned something new today. I'm also eager to hear your feedback and your own personal experiences with acrylic papers. So don't forget to comment below. I'm also answering questions, so you can go ahead and ask me anything you would like to know about acrylic papers. And needless to say, I would love it if you could show some support and subscribe to my channel. Have a great day.